Hey guys, welcome back to a 5th episode of Explaining Everything. Today we're diving into Gabbie Hanna and Jessi Smiles. I do want to give a trigger warning that we will be talking about SA and just extremely sensitive topics. And I also want to note that, I'm not going to be nice in this one. With that being said, let's get right into the video.
Since 2015, I have been the victim of narcissistic abuse.
The charge against me has been dismissed. Thank you to my friends, my family, and all you who stood by me and supported me through this.
Vine superstar Curtis Lepore being arrested in October on charges that he Jessi Smiles, a woman he met via the video service.
This relates to a situation where Jessi accused her ex-boyfriend Curtis Lepore of her.
Today's just one of those days where the trash is taking itself out. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Curtis Lepore.
From these tweets, all I can gather is that Keemstar knows Jessi Smiles to be an untrustworthy person and somebody not to take seriously.
But if they were together and that she had previously told him something and there was a misunderstanding, I think that would probably be a different story.
You seriously implying that if he had been my boyfriend, me having a head injury and telling him I feel sick and then waking up with him having with me unprotected with me, that would have been fine? Do you understand how fucking awful you are for saying that?
In October of 2013, Jessi was recovering from a concussion and stated that Curtis came over to help while she was recovering. Once Jessi was asleep, Curtis raped her. Charges were filed January 2014 and Curtis took a plea deal February of 2014. And the charges were dropped and he pleaded guilty to felony assault. And then in 2015, Curtis Lepore's charges were dropped to a misdemeanor. As this trauma was happening to Jessi, 8 months later she met Gabbie Hanna, and many people can argue that that was the beginning of Jessi's second trauma. In 2013, Jessi and Gabbie Hanna were Viners. Jessi was huge than Gabbie. Jessi had millions of followers and Gabbie was small. Now when the allegations came out about Curtis, many people bullied Jessi like, you're a liar, you used to date him, so how could he have you? And one of those bullies was Gabbie Hanna. Now, Jessi's first interaction with Gabbie Hanna actually stemmed from 2013 when Gabbie Hanna decided to do some type of rap battle with Jessi saying, I'm gonna take your throne. It was all for fun and play, nothing too serious, but I guess Jessi says that she got a bad vibe from Gabbie, so commented on her video, cringe, and then blocked her, which Gabbie later on admitted that hurt her feelings. So that was the first initial reaction between the two, but now let's jump back to 2014 where, everything was going on with Curtis, he was being charged, she took a plea deal, and while this was happening, Gabbie Hanna, amongst others too, but Gabbie Hanna also tweeted out something like, I'm gonna get my popcorn, 1,000 girls have cried in my town. And it is extremely important to note that no one forced Gabbie to tweet out those things. Yes, Gabbie did delete it because she realized, it was horrible, like she should have never said that. But let's be very clear here. This is where the seed started. This is where Gabbie planted the seed. So 8 months after Jessi's trauma, Gabbie actually apologizes to Jessi and she states that's how they became friends. Now there's two important things to note here when Gabbie apologized to Jessi about those tweets. When she apologized to Jessi, Gabbie also didn't, she was a Viner, right? So she had a following, okay? She had a platform. So she did not apologize to the people who saw those tweets, who responded to it. She didn't address and make a public statement, okay? So the seed is still there, and now there's water pouring in the dirt. And the second thing is, you have to question, like, why did Jessi become friends with Gabbie to begin with? Because their first altercation wasn't really great. She ended up blocking Gabbie, and then on top of that, Gabbie started, tweeting out mean things about her. Apologist tweets, right? And one has to wonder, because I was just, thinking about her headspace. Where was she at the time? Because keep in mind, she left Vine with millions of followers because she was being bullied on that platform. So for Gabbie Hanna to come and apologize to her, keep in mind, Gabbie Hanna did have a following. You had to think that Jessi's headspace was like, okay, I've been bullied constantly about this, and now people are starting to believe me. Gabbie apologized. This is like a clear slate, and it's nice to have a friend for once, and I'm sure she probably had friends, but for so long, when you're receiving so many hate, so many people telling you that you are a liar, it had to be refreshing to feel like, oh my gosh, people believe me, and now I'm also gaining a friend too. So now we're done with the 2014, and we're gonna dive into 2015, where Gabbie and Jessi are friends. Jessi is dating this guy named Richie. The relationship did not work out as well, and Jessi actually explains that Gabbie and Richie were acting inappropriate with each other, and Jessi ended up breaking things off with Richie. I'm sure it was more than just him and Gabbie acting inappropriate towards each other. But there was a point after Jessi broke it off with Richie to where she had this realization that, you know what, like, I think it's best if I'm not friends with Gabbie Hanna anymore, just because, she expresses that every single time that there was something negative that happened, it was correlated with Gabbie. So Jessi ended up texting Gabbie, hey, I think it's best if we should just not be friends anymore. And Gabbie responded with, you need to go to therapy, and you always kick people out of your life, all that jazz. Now, I will admit, I did think it was interesting where Jessi said that she had to have this conversation multiple times with different friends, how, hey, let's not be friends anymore. So I thought that was interesting. Now, keep in mind, guys, at this time, Gabbie still has not addressed her tweet. She did not come out and say, hey, I am so sorry for my apologist tweet. So in the meantime, while all this was going on, that plant, it kept growing. So as this plant is doing its thing, Jessi later on in 2015, she's done with Gabbie, goes to a bar, ends up bumping into a guy that Gabbie used to date, and they chit chat. Apparently the guy called Gabbie crazy or so, just because Jessi was like, I'm not friends with Gabbie anymore, and the guy was like, oh good, she's crazy. The guy ended up going back to Gabbie and saying, hey, Jessi talks shit about you. And Jessi claims all she did was laugh at the guy when he was talking about Gabbie, but either way, is it possible that Jessi went to this bar, talked to this guy, and they were both talking shit about Gabbie? Of course. But so what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. Gabbie thinks that she can control people. Like, so what? It's honestly the same as Gabbie can't control the amount of people who like the mean tweets about her, Now, when Gabbie finds this out, she retaliates by hitting up Jessi's ex-boyfriend, Richie, and she texts him, hey, let's sleep together, something along those lines. He says yes, but she says no. She just wanted to know that she could. Around the same time, Gabbie also asked Richie to be in an exposing video about Jessi, and Richie declined, and then Richie went back to Jessi and told Jessi everything. I know, it's like Richie, Jessi, Gabbie. Now, I also think it's important to note that the reason why Gabbie wanted to make an exposing video on Jessi was because Jessi was liking these tweets about Gabbie being an apologist, and, Gabbie wasn't feeling it. Mind you, she wasn't feeling the seed that she started, the plant that was growing. Now guys, keep in mind, it's 2015, so we're not supposed to know this yet, but apparently Curtis reached out to Gabbie, or that's what Gabbie says. Look, I obviously was not there, but this is what I think happened. Around this time, you already have Jessi not speaking to Gabbie. Around this time, Gabbie also reached out to Richie, asking him, hey, do you want to sleep with me? And although he said yes, she never did. She just wanted to know that she could, basically to get back at Jessi, right? right? But Richie declined her exposing Jessi video. So I think Gabbie jumped on to Curtis. I think after Richie was like, no, I'm not going to do a video with you about exposing Jessi, I think Gabbie went to Curtis, one, to piss off Jessi, let's be real. And then I also think she went to Curtis to hear his side of the story and to really try to sympathize with him after he went to the cops, signed a confession and all that jazz, right? But I also think a part of her, if she found like something in his story that she can sympathize with, then that would make her feel good about herself for hanging out with him. Does that make sense? Obviously, this is just my opinion, but that's what I think. So now we hit 2016 at VidCon, where Gabbie's gonna be there, Jessi's gonna be there, and so Jessi arrives there and Gabbie's like, you know, where's Jessi? You know, telling mutual friends like, hey, just let you know, I'm looking for Jessi, so if you see Jessi, you know, send her my way. You know, Jessi gets the word and Jessi's just like, oh no. So Jessi unblocks Gabbie, because keep in mind, they weren't friends, so Jessi had to unblock her and text her something along the lines of how I'm gonna punch you in the face. And by the way, this is the huge threat that Gabbie's talking about. Jessi claims that Gabbie had no idea that Richie told her about the exposing video, and Jessi regretted what she texted Gabbie, so the next day at VidCon, she left. Now guys, even though Jessi was the one who, you know, told Gabbie, I'm gonna punch you in the face, Gabbie's actions was very, like, premeditated in a way at the time, because you gotta think, she only asked Richie to sleep with him because she knows she could. She only reached out to Curtis because she knew she could, you know? And then after this, when Jessi leaves VidCon, she does everything she can to try to reach Jessi. Even tries to message Jessi's friend Alex, and that didn't work, so then she had to email Jessi, you know, completely ignoring her boundaries. She knew she was blocked, but no, I'm gonna continue to talk to Jessi anyways. And you know what's also strange is that in this 3-hour phone call that they have, you know, Gabbie goes, you know, Jessi, it's like one day you like me, one day you don't, and then when we went to VidCon, you completely ignored me and I did nothing to you. And then Jessi's like, you asked Richie to make an exposing video about me, and Gabbie just easily dances over this.
Yeah. So you messaged me, and the last text exchanges we have are you asking me to get food and drinks. And then VidCon was shortly after. I heard you were at a party. 2 people said to me in the bathroom, are you okay? And I was like, what do you mean? And they said, well, Jessi is here. And I was like, oh shit, Jessi's here? No, we're cool now. I was literally leaving the party. I got a text saying, I'm unblocking your number right now to let you know, never put my name in your mouth again. And then I emailed you after saying, I'm so confused. You literally asked me to get food and drinks, and now you're threatening to hit me. What is going on?
Called me and says, hey, weird, Gabbie just asked me to be in an exposed video about you. So I lost my shit, and I said, she did what?
And do you understand why I've been avoiding this for so long? I'm trying to have a civil conversation. I let you speak. Okay. May I please speak?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So after that situation, actually reached out to me.
And Jessi also says before the VidCon incident, you know, Gabbie was hanging out with Curtis, Gabbie, you know, took a selfie with him, all that jazz. Like, I don't care, guys, if Gabbie wanted to hang out with Ted Bundy. I don't care, guys, if Gabbie was like, you know what, I want all of my friends to be serial. I don't care. What I am focused on is the fact that Gabbie Hanna, instead of just saying to herself, hey, you know what, maybe the reason why people are calling me apologist is because of what I wrote, instead of just really admitting to herself the truth, she instead creates this whole narrative of what she thinks is true. And it's like the longer she didn't address it, the more people were like, yes, she is an apologist, and instead she would blame Jessi, you're liking tweets, and she deflects, and she's like, no, this is Jessi, so it just continues. Okay, so now we're in 2017, and Jessi is pregnant. Gabbie's only access to Jessi is through email. So Gabbie messages Jessi 4 months when Jessi's pregnant, congratulates her, and Jessi responds. Now Jessi responded to Gabbie because she just wanted to be nice, she wanted to keep the peace, right? And this actually reminded me of something Joey Graceffa said when he came out with his responding video to Gabbie about her series, but take a listen to what Joey says.
Maybe understand that the reason why all these people who are fake friends just don't know how to cut it off with you because you're scary and you don't make it easy for people to be honest with you.
I believe the reason why people respond to Gabbie, because keep in mind, Jessi did not have to respond to Gabbie at all. It was through email, right? And this may not even be a problem for you, but I feel like when someone blocks you, why even try to continue the conversation, okay? Don't even wish Jessi, like, congratulations. She blocked you for a reason. And it's telling when Jessi felt like she needed to respond to the email. So anyways, Jessi responded to the email, and then when Jessi was 7 months pregnant, Gabbie came out with a story time. Now this is where I think Jessi went wrong in a way, because Gabbie came out with the story time. It was about Jessi. Did she say Jessi? No, but everyone knew it was about Jessi. And the story time was about Gabbie and Richie, Jessi's ex-boyfriend. The story time was how Gabbie asked Richie to sleep with her. And you know, you gotta think, what was Gabbie's intentions of creating a story time like that? It was to get under Jessi's skin. And so Jessi, she calls up Gabbie and she's just like, hey, you need to delete that story time or I'm going to be defending myself, which Gabbie viewed as a threat. But here's my thing. Gabbie had every right to make that story time because it's her channel. She can do whatever she wants to do. You know, just like how Jessi can like mean tweets, Gabbie can make story times, you know? And it's also worth noting that these two did story times on each other. It doesn't matter which one said this about this one and that story time, whatever. They both did it about each other. I thought this was very immature. I thought they both should have just left it alone with the story times. But let's just check to see how our plant is doing. So it is 2017 and Gabbie Hanna is still blaming, you know, she's still receiving on social media comments of, you know, you are an apologist. And she's still blaming Jessi for this, and the plant, it's becoming a tree at this point. It's pretty big, it's growing. And then this huge problem took place in 2019 that really escalated things. So Gabbie got so tired of looking at these tweets, right? Of, you know, you are an apologist, how dare you hang out with Curtis, how dare you collab with Curtis, right? So she decides to message this fan, Deanna. And here's the problem with that. She decided to message this fan, but also telling this fan personal information about Jessi and also talking about Curtis, talking about Jessi's trauma, which Jessi has asked Gabbie not to do. Now, Gabbie says that she was having a private conversation with the fan, but here's the problem, and Gabbie knows this, and I think she's just creating the narrative to fit her point. You know, here's the first problem. The moment you decide to talk to a fan, you're pretty much talking to anyone. You're talking to the world. This fan has the power to send this message to anyone. No matter how many followers the fan has, that's so irrelevant. Whatever you say to this person, they can post it up on social media anywhere, send it to drama channels, you know, whatever your heart desires. And the second problem with me is when you're messaging a fan, you don't know if you're talking to a minor. You know, you're not just saying, oh, thank you for the likes or whatever. No, you're actually telling them like private information about Jessi, and you have no idea if this fan is a child. So for all you know, you could be saying like inappropriate things to this person. And come to find out, Deanna was 15 years old. Now, after the fan's conversation with Gabbie, because Gabbie was just trying to clear her name, right? She was trying to clear her name by talking about Jessi and her trauma, instead of just really addressing the tweet. So after her conversation with Deanna went ahead and went to Jessi and showed her all of the things that Gabbie had written. And this pissed off Jessi enough to make a video, and many people argue if Jessi really didn't want this out there, then why did she make the video? And I think Jessi made the video because one, she really didn't think Gabbie Hanna was going to stop. And in my opinion, I think the second reason to why Jessi made this video was because the moment Gabbie sent and texted her trauma, text about her personal information, her being on meds, all that jazz, it was pretty much out there, so why not jump in front of it? In this video, Jessi shows us that Gabbie talked to this fan about Jessi being on meds. Mind you, when Gabbie is talking to this fan about Jessi being on meds. It was like in a deviant way. Like, look at her, she's on meds. You know, it was so deviant, which is weird because Gabbie talks about mental health. And what's so mind-blowing to me is that Gabbie thought, no, I thought she was an adult. And you know what? I was defending myself. No, you defend yourself by addressing your damn tweet, which is now a big damn tree right now because you planted it and you still did not address it and you're still blaming Jessi, right? So get this, guys, after this video, Gabbie is pissed. Gabbie's like, oh my goodness, after this video, everyone's calling me an apologist because of Jessi and her trauma. So Gabbie continues talking about the trauma. Gabbie even got mad because Jessi tweeted out like something like, you're a shitty person. And when you hear Gabbie, I'm just like, you're not the boss of anyone. If Jessi wants it, mind you, Jessi didn't even say it was about Gabbie. Obviously we knew it was about Gabbie, but still, Gabbie's not the boss of anyone. If Jessi wants to tweet out anything, she can. If Jessi wants to like any mean tweet about Gabbie, she can. Now, I also like to state that Gabbie does mention that Jessi would go out to lunch with fans or go out to dates with fans and would talk shit about her. Jessi's response to all of this is that she doesn't go on dates with fans. She goes on lunches with them, and she says that she doesn't talk about Gabbie. Now, obviously, we don't have any proof to really back this up, whether, Jessi's telling us the truth or not. But what we do have is the text message that Gabbie sent a 15-year-old girl. Now we jump to the summer of 2020 where they have this 3-hour phone call to where Gabbie's goal was to get Jessi to retract many things that she said in this video. Now, we didn't hear about this phone call until recently, until Jessi released the phone call after a BuzzFeed article came out where Gabbie said it was like chaotic, that Jessi didn't apologize. Gabbie also said she was never friends with Curtis Lepore and always sided with Jessi. And this pissed Jessi off just because, she was like, when the situation first happened, you didn't even believe me. Granted, they didn't know each other, but still. So this pissed off Jessi enough because she felt like Gabbie was lying that she released part of the phone call. She released part of this phone call because it was revealed that Gabbie did admit to hanging out with Curtis. So now we fast forward to this 3-hour call that was last summer of 2020, and I kid you not, guys, Gabbie is controlling, manipulative, and she's like delusional and unapologetic. Like, it's insane. Guys, this is where I was so pissed off. So we're gonna start with controlling because so the number one thing that pissed me off was when Gabbie bullies Jessi into apologizing to her.
Like, just say, I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Like, I'm literally asking you to apologize to me one-on-one for like bringing me up over the years and like threatening to make videos on me. Like, it's been so traumatic.
Gabbie, were traumatic for me too. The things that you did that made me want to do videos were traumatic for me too. So we can accept that we both.
But I was also dealing with trauma.
I've never said your name on my channel with like a bad thing, like, oh, Gabbie Hanna exclusive, other than my one video that I called you out directly. Every other video was stupid and it was immature. And
stupid for who, Jessi?
However,
to me, who's fucking crying at home about it? Who's it stupid to, Jessi? To the person
Gabbie,
who's getting the tweets?
And if you didn't think that was bad, Gabbie also tries to tell Jessi what her trauma is.
I got a call from Curtis and I did this and that. I was like,
but that's not about your trauma, Jessi. I understand that it's connected,
It is my
but
trauma,
me saying
Gabbie.
that I got a call from Curtis isn't saying like what happened that night.
Conversation, because if you can't understand what my trauma, I'm explaining to you that is my trauma, that you're speaking of my trauma, and you can't even acknowledge that. We need to move on to the next topic.
Because
please,
Jessi, I'm being accused
because we're gonna
of
move
something.
On. We're gonna move on from that topic.
Because I'm being
accused.
See, you can't just move on when you get into a corner, Jessi.
And then to make matters even worse, the video that Gabbie posted on her YouTube channel, before we were to listen to this 3-hour call, she posted a video explaining herself, and then she even speaks on Jessi's.
They were together and that she had previously told him something and there was a misunderstanding, I think that would probably be a different story.
Guys, Gabbie Hanna's behavior, and I've said this before and I'm gonna say it again, it pissed me off because she loves to throw these long terminologies for people, calling them a narcissistic abuser. And I'm sitting here like, did you hear yourself? Did you see your behavior or listen to your behavior and how you sound? Like, her behavior was like egocentric, remorseless, atrocious, bitter, callous, cold-blooded, heartless, ruthless behavior. I mean, I've never seen something like that. I'm like, oh my goodness. This is what Jessi had to deal with for all those years. It's ridiculous. Now, I'd like to point out, this wasn't really talked about a lot in the phone call, but this was talked a lot about in Jessi's video, how Gabbie, I guess Jen Dent was talking badly about Gabbie. Jen used to be friends with Gabbie, not anymore obviously, but Jen is still friends with Jessi. And Jen was tweeting off, you know, all these negative things about Gabbie, and Gabbie decides that she's going to text Jessi to tell Jen to stop. And if Jessi doesn't tell Jen to stop, and that's when Gabbie says that she's going to release 2 like negative podcasts about Jessi. And I'm sitting here like, wow, you think you can just control everything, you know? Like, Jessi can't control Jen. Now, I do feel for Gabbie here for just a minute, just because, you know, Jessi did admit that she would go on to Jen's Twitter and pretend to be Jen and would tweet, you know, negative things either about Curtis or whatever, right? So it is fair game that anything negative Jen says or tweets out, you can probably be like, okay, that's Jessi, even if it wasn't, just because we don't know. So it's not fair for us to kind of speculate like which tweet was Jen's, which tweet was Jessi's. But I wanted to mention this because this really falls under controlling, and it's like Gabbie so that's controlling. Let's move on to the second thing Gabbie was in this video, which was delusional. Okay, so I'm gonna play you a clip of how Gabbie says that Jessi wanted to get emotional on this 3-hour call. Take a listen.
Jessi was looking for any moment that she possibly could so that she could get emotional on the call because she was filming it and she always knew she was going to post it. Why else would you film the call like that?
So now that you've heard the clip of Gabbie basically saying that Jessi was using like emotional manipulation with us, she wanted to get emotional on that call. Now listen to the conversation and how Jessi has to hang up.
And like when I was waiting, because I wanted,
fuck him.
Jessi, I wanted to fight for you to him, like dead ass.
Like literally, fuck him.
I agree. I agree. But like when he said that, I literally wanted to catch him in his lie. So then he told me his story. And I told him, well, Curtis, that is literally the story that Jessi tells. And at the end of the day, she was asleep. Like, that is what I said to him. And then he was like, well, yeah.
Excuse me, I need to call you back. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'll call you back.
That's fine.
Okay, bye.
So now that you've listened to this conversation of Jessi having to hang up, Gabbie, later on in this conversation, actually forces that same line of conversation again. And Jessi's like, oh, can we please just not talk about this because it's gonna upset me again? And Gabbie still forces this same line of conversation. Take a listen.
Because, and you didn't let me finish, and you didn't let me finish the story. And that's why I'm saying,
because I couldn't believe that you would let him tell you.
Wait, but can I please finish the story that I tried to say before you like got off the phone?
So it's extremely troubling to me when Gabbie gets on camera and says, guys, Jessi, she was crying on purpose because she wanted to get upset. But then Gabbie forces the same exact line of conversation, continues on talking when Jessi's like, no, I don't really want to talk about this. And she continues on anyways because it's all about Gabbie. It's the Gabbie Show. Now we get to manipulation. So the whole point for these two to have this conversation is for them to really figure out a way to where they can both exist in the same world without talking about each other. So Jessi's like, you know what, I'm willing to take down my videos if you are. Gabbie demands, well, you know what, I need you to retract your statement in this video, retract your statement, and I need you to say this, this, and this. And Jessi goes, I'm not gonna say that you're not an apologist because you tweeted it. And let's see how the tree's doing. Oh, there's more trees now. Awesome, because Gabbie still hadn't addressed it from 2014. So here's where the manipulation comes in. Gabbie goes, oh, well, you know what? Well, how about you just say there were some things that were true and there were some things that are not true. Kind of leaving it up in the air for us who are not dumb at all. For us to really speculate on, you know, what was true or not. You know what I mean? Gabbie's manipulation at its finest. Take a listen.
Yeah, if the only thing that makes you feel like you're gonna move on is me saying I lied when I don't feel like I did.
There are portions of that video that are untrue. How about you don't have to say you lied, just say there are some things that were true and some things that were untrue, because the untrue part is you said it wasn't a FaceTime call, you saw him in person. It was 100% a FaceTime call.
You see what I mean? Now the other way Gabbie manipulates Jessi, let's be real, she is manipulative throughout this whole entire phone call. But another time she manipulates Jessi is when she asks Jessi to sign an NDA, and Jessi's even willing to do that as long as Gabbie signs an NDA. And Gabbie goes, oh no, but I have to defend myself. So you want Jessi to sign an NDA while your ass doesn't? Take a listen.
I'm sorry, what was it? Can you repeat
Are
that?
you willing to sign an NDA so that I know you can't do this again? Because every day I'm going to be living in fear that, like, I never know what's going to tip you off. Like, dead ass, I don't know.
Listen, straight up, if we both sign NDAs, I'll do it, and we'll never.
But Jessi, I also have to, if somebody brings this up in an interview, I have to be able to say, like, this didn't happen or this didn't happen.
Now let's talk unapologetic, because Gabbie Hanna is unapologetic about everything. Throughout this 3 hours that I listened to, I did not hear a sincere apology. Jessi, I'm so sorry the way how I treated you, how I kept bringing up your trauma. I'm so sorry that I hanged out with Curtis. Actually, you know what? She can hang out with Ted Bundy for all I care, like I said, but, you know, I'm so sorry that I keep bringing up your trauma, and I should have never said what I said, and I should have never asked Richie to make an exposed video. Like, I didn't hear any of that. All I heard was, I need you to basically retract your whole entire video. I need you to say that I'm not an apologist so I could live on with my music career. Basically, that was the gist for Gabbie anyways. Now, Gabbie makes an attempt to apologize in this call, but just take a listen. Take a listen.
Do you want me to say it again right now? Because I will. I shouldn't have taken it that far, but I also think that there needs to be some acknowledgement that, like, you've also done that and you also had the same conversations with fans.
Have you ever watched Dr. Phil? An apology with a butt after it is not apology at all.
And I laughed when Jessi was like, you know what they say about a butt after an apology? And it's true, Gabbie doesn't give two shits about Jessi. All she wants Jessi to do is to tell us that she's not an apologist. And the sad thing is, I don't think she will ever apologize for anything without accepting an apology as well. Because the whole point of an apology is to really acknowledge what you've done and not to really fixate on, well, okay, after I apologize, then you need to apologize for this, because it's not a fucking apology. Plain and simple as that. It's not. And look, I don't want to sound repetitive, but Gabbie doesn't know how to apologize. And I really want to dive into, because people are like, you know, this is what Jessi did wrong. And, you know, I will point out some things that I wouldn't have done if I was Jessi. And I'm not talking about her trauma. I'm just talking about other things. Why call Gabbie about the story time? Like, come on, that's fair game. It was immature for Jessi to call Gabbie to take down her story time, because now you're just kind of continuing this vicious cycle of, I'm gonna talk about you this year, I'm gonna talk about you this year, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't have done that. I obviously wouldn't have, well, you know, maybe I would have, I don't know, but it was wrong of Jessi to threaten Gabbie saying, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Okay, that was wrong. And another thing that was wrong is when Jessi, and I'm sure she obviously knew it was wrong, to use her friend's Twitter to tweet out negative things either about Curtis or Gabbie. You know, that was wrong because now it's like it's not fair for Jessi to be like, no, these tweets were Jen. It's like, we don't know that. I mean, we want to believe her, but we don't know that. So it's very fair for Gabbie to make this assumption that, you know, whatever Jen's tweeting out, it could possibly be Jessi. So overall, if you can't tell, Gabbie Hanna's abuser is Gabbie Hanna. Now, there's two other things I want to talk about Gabbie Hanna before I dive into mental health real quick. The first thing I wanted to mention is that Gabbie Hanna does not know how to take criticism, even if her life depended on it. There was a moment in this 3-hour phone call to where it was a stupid conversation. Jessi released this song and I guess pinned a mean comment about Gabbie. I don't know if it was true, if it wasn't. Jessi said it wasn't. Gabbie said she had the screenshots right in front of her face. Anyways, my whole point is, so what? So freaking what? Jessi could pin a mean comment if she wants to, and that's what Gabbie doesn't get. You can't, and it falls under controlling too. Like, stop. People can do whatever the hell they want, okay? People can like mean tweets about you, and guess what? You can't do anything about it. You know, and it's so annoying to me how she's like, no, but you like this, you pinned this comment and about my EP and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, stop. She can't take criticism for anything. And then Gabbie starts to talk about how Jessi made 7 videos about her again, and I'm just like, so what? And I've already talked about that, so I'm not going to be repetitive. They can both make videos on each other. That whole thing was immature anyways, but it's like, make it make sense. You know, you're a public figure. People are allowed to have an opinion. I mean, this is called an honest conversation. We are all allowed. You can't shut everyone up. And the last thing I wanted to talk about, what I think is really wrong with Gabbie Hanna, because it's my opinion, is that she does not know how to respond to situations. And honestly, that's just like her career, her scandals. If she responded, if she didn't tell her subscribers, her viewers, when the whole Kenza Cosmetics scandal happened, to manage your expectations, then maybe this wouldn't be a talk now. Gabbie's like, you know, I don't understand, because other influencers, they didn't get the amount of shit that I did because they responded differently. They didn't tell their subscribers to manage their expectations. And another example, when she was filming Escape the Night, I'm like, damn, Gabbie, you only lasted 3 days? Like, she just doesn't know how to respond to situations. And even when she, they pulled her back in for like a photo shoot or whatever for the show, and then she called the PA a dumb, something like that. I'm like, you couldn't even, is it that serious? Were you that upset that you had to wait? Instead of 15 minutes or 5 minutes, it was gonna be an extra 20 minutes. Like, her whole entire scandals that she goes through, if she just responded differently to things, she wouldn't be where she's at right now. She wouldn't have the series. Guys, even in the series, she fails to even explain herself. She fails to respond to all the allegations against her. Okay, so Jessi Smiles went through a lot. Whether Gabbie Hanna chooses to believe it or not, she did. So I'm gonna start with Jessi Smiles. In my opinion, I think that, you know, what's obviously important is her physical and mental health, same as Gabbie. You know, Jessi's pregnant right now, and I think, you know, she did say that that was going to be her last video that she just uploaded about this whole situation. And I hope it is, because I think at the end of the day, you know, she's a public figure too, and we really can't control what people say about us, but we can control what we do. So I think, you know, Jessi, if she needs to talk to a therapist, or if she, you know, whatever it is that she needs to do, because I'm not gonna sit here and be like, you know, she should do this, and this, but whatever she feels like she needs to do in order for her to like live a healthy mental and physical life. Feel me? Because she has so much to look forward to, a new baby on the way, and I think it would be amazing if that's, you know, where her focus stems. And obviously I would never tell anyone how to handle their trauma and things of that nature, but I do hope that, you know, she's getting the help she needs regarding that. And me just sitting through listening to a 3-hour conversation about Gabbie Hanna, I'm like, oh good lord, what is she going through? So I feel her. And then for Gabbie Hanna, I'd never want, regardless of how I feel about her, because she got me heated in this phone call, like she got me heated in this video. Regardless of how I feel about her, I never would ever want to be the reason why she wouldn't want to wake up the next morning. That's not my intent. I think, you know, I want to state my opinions, but I also, because she's also listed here in this phone call, guys, that she, you know, and then she's also said that she was. So I hope that she also gets the help that she needs. And I truly mean that. This is not some type of thing to where I say nicely at the end of a video. Like, I truly mean that, because no discrimination here against, you know, mental health and who deserves more help than the other, okay? I really do hope that these two individuals, and I can't sit there and like demand you guys talk to a therapist right now. I can't do that, but I really, all I can do as a viewer, as a content creator, is just hope that, you know, they are getting the help that they need, that they do have family and friends that support them and love them, because at the end of the day, regardless of how I feel about either one, you know, those things are important, not for just them, but for all of us as well. I'm also going to leave some mental health resources below, just in case you were triggered by this video, or maybe you weren't and you still wanted to talk to someone. Just know that there are people out there, because there was a lot of sensitive things in this video. Here, as viewers, us watching this or listening to this, you know, it could have a toll on us as well. So those resources are in the description below. And yeah, let's now get to the conclusion. Wow, so there were so many things that was said in that 3-hour phone call, but this was really my takeaway from it. You know, I felt like, you know, there were some wrongs with Jessi, there's a lot of wrongs with Gabbie. And I think that overall, I hope that Gabbie Hanna's next episode on her series is an apology, a real one. You know, not one where she expects one in return. I hope she has friends and family that are there to support her, and that are there to also be extremely severely honest with her as well. You know, I don't see, guys, what good this series is. I honestly hope if she's not going to apologize, then just end it. And a lot of people say, oh, well, that's Gabbie Hanna, she's telling her truth, but as we can see, like, it's not really the truth, you know? And, you know, I feel bad for calling her delusional, but it's what I think. It's my opinion, and I really do hope that she gets the help she needs. And I wanted to say a congratulations to Jessi Smiles on her rainbow baby. So yeah, leave a comment below. I am curious to know what you guys think. I know it was a little bit off more in this video, but it was also just very triggering too, if I'm being honest. But yeah, let me know what video you'd like me to do next. Leave a comment below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Bye, guys.